Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And this video, I was going to say today's video, but hopefully if I get everything done in time, I'm going to have a couple videos going up back to back. My video for now is for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, of which I'm the host this week. And like I always do, I will have a link to my blog post directly below the video, and then in the blog post is the direct link to the current Color Throwdown Challenge. It's open to everyone. We do it just for fun. Just gets everyone thinking outside of the box in terms of color. It's worth checking out even if you're not going to play along, just for the inspiration, because it's always interesting to see all the different interpretations of the challenge. So I've got some birthday cards that I made using one of Simon's newer sets, the Cue the Confetti, which has been super popular. It's sold out really quickly. As of filming this intro, the stamps and the dies are in stock. They are planning on, I heard Heidi said in her live video, more coming back in, along with, I used the coordinating stencil sets. Those I think are on pre-order. So I'll have links to everything like I always do, but trust me, everyone's working on getting stuff like restocked. So all that info will be with each of the listings, and I will link to all the supplies directly below the video, like I always do, and then my blog post, etc., etc. So keep watching, and I will show you guys how I made these birthday cards. So I chose a rather unconventional color combo for this week. It was a navy blue, aqua, mustard yellow, and orange. But if you use them right, you can make some really great cards with them. So like I said, I'm using the Cue the Confetti stamp set, and I used 3 of the balloon images. I didn't use the big one. The big one is enormous, but I wanted to keep these A2 size cards. So I used the 3 other sizes, and I've just got some scraps of white cardstock here. This is Simon Says Stamp Smooth White Cardstock, and I put the balloon images just on acrylic blocks because I want to stamp everything more than once. And since I'm stamping on like random shaped scraps of cardstock, which I actually ended up just using this one piece, I was able to fit everything on here. It was just easier to do it with acrylic blocks versus lining everything up with my Misty, you know, that sort of a thing. And I used my anti-static powder tool on the cardstock, and then I'm stamping the balloons with clear embossing ink, and then coating them with Simon's Detail Gold embossing powder. And I haven't melted anything yet. I'm just pouring the embossing powder over everything so I can see where I stamped. Because stamping clear on white, sometimes a little difficult to see, and I want to make sure I've got everything spaced out, because I will be using the coordinating wafer dies to die cut these once I'm done coloring them all in. So after I had all of them stamped on here, I got my heat tool and melted everything with the heat tool till it was smooth and shiny and melted, just metallic fabulousness. And like I always do, you just tilt it back and forth in the light. If there's any dull, grainy areas, those are spots you missed. Hit that with the heat tool, then we're good to go. And then I trimmed all these apart, just rough cut trimmed them so that I can do all my stenciling, and plus they need to be apart anyway because I've only got one set of wafer dies to die cut everything. And then for the stenciling, there are 2 different stencil sets that coordinate with this set. And these, yes, these are on pre-order. So you can order them and then things don't ship out till they're in stock. It's listed with the listing. So I'm using the All the Balloons stencil, which are shaped to all the balloon shapes for this set. And they're just the balloon shapes. It also includes the masks. And then the patterns is All the Balloons patterns. Pretty simple. So I lay the balloon stencil down, and you could skip this, but this keeps all the color contained to inside the actual balloon shape, which is what I wanted. I didn't want the color to go outside of it, but if that doesn't bug you, it's good to go. And then I laid the pattern stencil over, so I'm just layering up stencils. And I chose Concord 9th inks for all of this because they were perfect for this challenge. So right now I'm using Midnight ink, so a very deep navy blue, and my blending brush. And I blend the pattern first. And since this is a stripe pattern, I just go in the direction of the stencil so that the little stripes of the actual stencil don't move. And then with a lighter hand, I blend just the same ink over the image after I've removed the pattern stencil. So that just fills in and tones down because I didn't want the balloons to look white. I want them to be the color of the stencil pattern. So then for the next stencil, I was using sea glass ink, and I used the little heart pattern stencil. So I laid the balloon stencil and then layered the heart pattern on top, blended the sea glass ink, and then blended the ink without the pattern so that it's got that nice just blended finish. And all of these will smooth out even more as they dry and just kind of blend into each other a little bit and just soften, and love it. I had a lot of fun making these cards. So for the third color, this is Sunflower, and I used the third pattern. There's only 3 patterns for the balloons. So after I do the 2 little balloons with the sunflower color, I'm going to quickly wipe these off and then go on to the final color with the last 2 small balloons. So I'm going to wipe the stencils off so that I'm not mixing those in with the orange ink. And then I'm going to use spiced cider ink from Concord and Ninth as well, which one of my faves. So wiped off the stencil, layered that over the little balloon, wiped off that other stencil, layered that on top, and then blended the spiced cider ink with my blending brush, and then remove the pattern stencil, blend that ink right onto the balloon, and then repeat it for the last balloon. And then that way I've got all my little balloons that have been heat embossed and stenciled with their patterns and their colors, and like sky's the limit. It doesn't have to be this color combo. You know, you can do rainbows of balloons. What is more happy than that? Seriously. Anyway, after I was done all of that, I used the coordinating wafer dies, taping them in place with just little bits of washi tape so that they don't shift when I run them through my die cut machine. And after I die cut all of the balloon shapes for the balloon tails, I was contemplating just skipping doing any stamping and just using like gold thread. I was like, that'll work, you know, saves me the effort. But instead, I still wanted to use the little stamped balloon tails. So I basically just created a little template, and I used the coordinating wafer dies because the wafer dies for the balloon tails are solid. As you can see there, there's no openings, so you can't see where you're lining them up. And that happens a lot, especially if it's a very small, thin area, certain finicky wafer dies, etc. So all I did was I just took a piece of cardstock and I die cut those balloon tails from it. And I'm going to use that as my template. And at first I lined them up behind another piece of white cardstock because, again, I'm a professional and like, hello. Remove the white cardstock, put black cardstock so I could actually see what I was doing. So I've got the template on top of that black cardstock, and then I'm lining up the little balloon tail stamps. This took a little bit and it still wasn't perfect. It doesn't matter. It's fine. You know, I ain't too worried about it. And then I also thought about like heat embossing all the balloon tails as well with gold embossing powder, but thankfully thought better of that and was like, yeah, no, that's just getting way too finicky. So I would just insert the little die cuts into that template, and then I was inking up the stamps with Concord Night Stardust ink. And then I would just repeat the process. So remove the little die cuts once they're stamped, and then insert the next ones, ink up the stamps, stamp them. This made it so much easier. It took next to no time, and I'm just going to keep that little template. I stick it in the back of the packaging with all the wafer dies. So next time I go to use it, it's already die cut, and then all I've got to do is line up the stamps, which isn't too difficult, really. I was just being a little bit finicky with the whole thing. So I just kept removing the stamped little balloon tails and then sticking in the next die cuts. Inking up, stamping again. My reverse tweezers came in handy too, because of course everything's like gripping to the waffle grip mat that I keep in my Misty, which also helps with this whole process, keeping everything sort of contained and keeping those little die cut, you know, narrow pieces down so they're not bending up and getting in the way, you know what I mean? So once I've got all of those stamped, I then have all my balloons heat embossed, stenciled, the balloon tails. Then for my sentiment for the front of the cards, I'm using the Birthday Wishes wafer die set. and I die cut those from scraps of white cardstock. And then the top layer I die cut from Simon's matte gold cardstock. So I stacked 2 layers together of the white and then topped it with the matte gold cardstock. And all the little dots to the eyes in both words I just kept aside in one of my little triangle trays, because I will adhere those, and I'll show that when I'm actually assembling the front of these cards. So I've got all my sentiments stacked together. There is an outline for this wafer die as well, but I didn't use it. I just used the words. And then for my background, I took panels of Simon's smooth white cardstock. I have my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine with the original platform and 2 metal shims. And I'm using Simon's 3D embossing folder, the Party Balloons 3D embossing folder. And I lightly mist the cardstock with water. That just softens the paper fibers to get a better impression with the embossing folder. And I'm covering everything with my flour sack cloth just so I'm not getting water everywhere. And then I just kind of press the cardstock into the flour sack cloth so I don't have like big drips of water on there. And was getting like splatter all over the back of these white panels because my flour sack cloth, you guys have been seeing me. I've been using it in videos and like spritzing things with like mica stains and all of that. I need to wash this thing now because yeah, it ain't clean no more. I don't mind the stains. It's just not clean. But thankfully I kept the fronts clean because I wanted them to be just white. So after I embossed them, I set them aside. And then I took 2 more panels of white cardstock that I had already trimmed down. These are 4 inches by 5 1/4 because these are going to go on the inside of the cards. And I'm inking up one of the sentiments from the Cue the Confetti stamp set. I love this font. I love this font. And it goes with the wafer die I'm using too. And it's just perfection. So I inked that up with that Midnight ink. Stamp that onto the inside of the card. And then I couldn't resist stamping some of the little confetti images, and there's little like starburst confetti type images in the set too. So I used all the same inks I did for the stenciling. So I just stamped them kind of randomly all around the insides of these panels. And like I always say, panels that are going on the inside of the cards, I will write over this. You know, like I'll write around the actual sentiment there, but all the little confetti and whatnot that I'm stamping, I will write over it because people ask that, like, where do you write to the recipient? On top of it. This is going on the inside of the card. It just adds, that extra little something, but I will write over it. It's fine. So after I did that, I took all of my balloons and I adhered them to their balloon strings. So I just put little dabs of craft tacky glue and then pressed the balloon on it. And then I just let all this sit for a couple of minutes until the glue, secured it all and was dry. And then the balloon backgrounds that I had embossed, those I had also trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4, just slightly smaller than what my card bases will be. So I then figured out my little layout of all of these balloons, and then I just assembled them with dabs of craft tacky glue and washi tape because you're not going to see any of that. So once I was kind of happy with the layout, taped everything together to hold it in place with the washi tape so that I could then just adhere it all in one go. And I put Simon's Big Mama foam tape just on the back of the balloons. The tails I'm leaving as is. I'm not even going to bother adhering them because I'm going to adhere the die cut sentiment on top of that, and that'll hold everything in place. So I put the foam tape on there, popped those into place, and then used my craft tacky glue again and adhered the sentiments right on top of the balloon strings. So that's just going to hold everything down. And then repeat the process with the second card front. So got that in place, and off camera I actually stuck like my acrylic blocks on top of the sentiments and just let that weight hold everything down while the glue dried. And then to adhere the dots for the eyes that were in my little tray, I just used my little embellishment wand and dabs of glue. Makes it so much quicker and easier. I still shake my head at how I used to fiddle with that back in the day, doing it all separately. And it's in videos, in some of my older videos. It's so much easier adhering it all in place. So after I did that, I'm going to adhere these to my card bases, and my card bases are Simon's Soft Navy cardstock, and they're top folding A2 cards, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I adhered the card fronts with craft tacky glue, and then the insides of the cards also will be adhered with craft tacky glue so that everything is just technically done, but you guys know, of course I have matching bling. I didn't add splatter. Trust me, I thought about it. I thought about it a lot. A lot of thought went into the splatter. And then I was like, no, not going to do it not for this. Instead, I just added extra bling. And I'm using one of my original, like, OG favorites, the Studio Katia gold sparkle crystals. Love. I have like multiple packs of these, and I still a favorite. So I sprinkle these liberally throughout both of these cards, and once I was happy with the placement, I adhered them into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue, and that finished off these cards. So, like I mentioned in the intro, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. In the blog post, there will be a link to the Color Throwdown Challenge. I'd love if you guys checked it out. Come join me and see all the amazing inspiration and what everyone else comes up with. And then, of course, I will also have links to all the supplies I use. That will be directly below the video as well as on my blog. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting. Subscribe if you haven't. I would love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.